Hey you, Julien here, and welcome back to another video about the French language. Today, let's learn the diacritics that exist in French. Diacritics, what are those? So there are the little accents you put on top of the letters. So first we have l'accent aigu, l'accent aigu. It looks a bit like that. Then we have the accent grave. Accent grave, it can go on A, E, and U. Then we have the accent circonflexe, which looks like a little Chinese hat, and a mix of both, the accent aigu and accent grave. Accent circonflexe, and it can go on pretty much all the vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Then we have the tréma, which are the two little dots here, E, I, U. For the record, you can see that here, before the colon, there is a space in French, which we don't in English, just so you know. So here are some examples with the accent aigu, E. So you see that by itself, the letter E is pronounced E. If you have the accent, it's always going to sound E, like in épée, which means a sword, épée, épée. Then we have the accent grave. For the letter A, it's not going to change the pronunciation. It's always going to be A, la, which means there, la, A. E would sound different with the accent grave. If you put the accent aigu, it's going to be E. If you put the accent grave, it's going to be E. Can you tell the difference? E, 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 E. So here we have père. It's not père, it's père, père. So a bit further back in the throat. E is closed, E is open. Then here also the U, le U, avec un accent grave. It's not going to change the pronunciation. So O, U, O, U, ensemble, ou. Sans l'accent, without the accent, it's going to be or, but with the accent, it means where, ou. Here we have the accent circonflexe, so the little hat, I like to call it a hat, a Chinese hat. And okay, so in French from France, it doesn't change the pronunciation, and it's going to be always the same, a, un, an. However, normally it should be a bit more open, a, 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 a. We'll get back to that. But just to make it easier, and because 99% of people in France would pronounce it that way, A, just know that the letter A by itself or with any accents is always going to be pronounced A. Être. So yeah, this is also very tricky. E accent circonflexe. Why? Because sometimes it can be pronounced like E accent aigu or sometimes E accent grave. Historically, this accent is because there used to be an S after the E, but it changes the sound of the letter. Here, être, which means to be, both physically or your identity, to be French, to be in Canada, whatever, être. So it sounds a bit more like the accent grave in this case, but there are other letters like vêtu. Vêtu is going to be like an accent aigu. So just keep that in mind. I, same, it doesn't change the pronunciation here. So A and I together, it's E, and here it doesn't change the pronunciation. In fact, this word, now the French Academy, l'Académie Française, which has the job of making the French language very standard, they recognize the new way of writing it, which is without the accent circonflexe. Then we have the O sound with the accent. So by itself, when you want to say oh something, but here it's just going to sound like a regular O, hôpital, un hôpital. Then we have the tréma. The tréma. So in this case, it's going to sound like Noël. What the tréma does is to separate the vowels. Two vowels together that should sound a certain way. It's going to separate them. So for example, in Noël, it's a bit counterintuitive, but that's it. We pronounce it like that and we write it like that. And here we have haïr, haïr, which means to hate something. So here, ambiguïté, something ambiguous, ambiguïté. That's the thing. So U and I together in front of a G, it's supposed to be Guy. So without the tréma, it would be ambiguïté, but with the tréma, it makes it ambiguïté. In fact, this word is very ambiguous because you can put the tréma on the U or on the I. So both are correct, but I needed an example for the U, the U, ambiguïté. So there you have it, the Cédille. So the Cédille you see on the C, there's a little, how to call that, a little tail underneath. For example, ça, it. By itself normally, C and A would sound K, or we have garçon, which means boy. So without the cédille, ça would be ka, garçon, garcon. And you put the cédille and it becomes a ness sound, ça, garçon. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know with a thumbs up or in the comments, and don't forget to share and subscribe to support this channel. Merci et à bientôt. Thank you and see you soon.